Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me. There have been changes going on. You may or may not have noticed that the name of my YouTube channel has changed from Sweet Urban Living to Beth Hovis Education. And that is just one of the things that, as a wellness coach, a holistic health practitioner, I had to make a change of coming out of my herb shop. And I've been out of my herb shop for a while, but that name was born, that Sweet Urban Living name was born when I was in an herb shop. So I'm making some changes to reflect more now what I'm doing with education for holistic wellness practitioners. So if you're joining me, and as you join today, I'd love to have you say hello in the chat. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're watching. And as we go along, Rebecca's outing me. Yes, there have been so many changes over the years on so many levels. And yeah, they're actually good changes. And, it's one of those things where we're really going to focus on what to do with with your clients. What you're doing with your client matters. And I love what you shared in our Facebook group earlier today, Rebecca. I did read it. I just haven't had a chance to comment on it. But what we do with our clients really does matter. So again, if you're coming in and you're watching this, please say hello. Tell me where you're from. Please feel free to join in and ask questions and leave comments and things like that as we go. I like having the chat going because it gives us so much to discuss. It gives us more to talk about. So Rebecca says, it's not just for you. I'm in that mix too, where what we're talking about are the changes that are going on. So if you missed last week's Friday chat and you haven't watched it yet, you might want to go back and watch it, because in that one we talk about identity and design. And I had the opportunity, in the midst of not feeling so good and having family members that I was taking care of not feeling so good, that I was kind of like sitting on the sofa resting, and I was like, I had time to just sit and talk with God and rest. And it was beautiful. But there were things that he was like, I won't spoil it, but because there were 3 questions that I want y'all to ask yourselves, but it was like, it really pushed me forward again in what I'm doing in business. My focus is on helping holistic wellness practitioners, whether you're a traditional naturopath, you're at health coach level, you're an herbalist, you have some other designation behind your name, whatever it is. If you are in the natural health and wellness holistic practice field, this is a place for you, because we want to talk about building our business, helping our clients, and we've been doing this. I looked back at my notes and was like, I've been doing this for almost a year. It was like astounding to see. And, that's one of those things where we've talked about block scheduling, and we've talked about systems and finances, and we've talked about, how to build it. And today we want to talk about winging it or working with intention. Do you have a system in place? And this is not so much about let's get a system, although that can be very helpful. You might get some systems out of this, but this is more along the lines of, what you're doing intentional? Do you have a flow? Do you have a pattern? Do you have a way of helping? Have you integrated all the training and tools into your practice that you need and or want to integrate into your practice? Does it feel cohesive to you and to your clients, or do you feel like you're stumbling, going, well, I know how to do this and I know how to do that? And when I say I know the different things, I'm thinking, people ask me many times, how my sessions go. What do I do? Because I'm an iridologist, so my primary focus, especially the very first visit with a client, is getting iridology photos, pictures of the irises, so that I can determine, how to best support that person, because that's the beauty of iridology. It gives you targeted approach for your client, specifically for them. But I also am trained in herbs and aromatherapy and homeopathy and Bach flower remedies, and I've used uh, energetic frequency scanners in my practice. I've used muscle response testing in my practice. And so I've done the thing of going, ooh, pretty, new, exciting. Let me bring this in. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let me just say that up front. If you're experimenting and trying things out, there's nothing wrong with going, hey, does this fit? But we do have to get from a place of getting it to a process, getting it to, and it doesn't have to be a locked in, like we can't move outside of this box process. But if if you have something in mind where, this is what I use. These are my specialties. This is what I'm comfortable with and clicks with me because, we've talked about this. If you've come to any of our weekends away or you've been on our webinars, some people, the RBTI is their jam. It makes sense to them and it clicks in seconds. And others of us, like me, I'm going, I have to think about it a little bit harder to get the RBTI. Whereas with the iridology, that's the one that clicks for me. And so we want to wing it. There are times we do want to wing it. There are times when a client comes in and I might have an idea of this is the way I think we're going to go and what we're going to do. But as we're having the conversation with the client, we realize because we're listening to the client. We're not just looking at the sheet of paper or lab results or their intake information or whatever it is that we have in front of us and just going, well, this is the next thing that I'm supposed to do. Let me check that off my list. There are times when people just need to come in and be heard. They need the ear that you're giving them. And that unlocks a lot of things too. So sometimes being able to be intuitive in your practice can be very helpful. So I don't know if I got other people besides Rebecca here. Sometimes we have people who are just watching and they don't comment. But if you are here, you're watching, please feel free to comment and let me know what feels better for you. Are you more of I like my systems, everything in place, or I'm more of an intuitive, go with the flow? And how can we bridge those two together? Because sometimes we fear being too rigid. If you're the intuitive type, you don't want to be too rigid. But if you're I've got to have everything in place, if you don't have that system, you could feel like you're missing something. And we want to kind of bridge that. We want to be intentional. We want to get it to where we have a little bit of, flexibility to be able to go, I have my system, but now let me go with the client has come in and my set protocol is going to be set aside for the moment to meet that person where they are in the moment. So winging it is great, but if that's all we do, then winging it can actually lead to the session feeling scattered or unfocused, especially for the client. If they come in and it's different every single time, if it's something that they're like, I don't know what to expect, that can cause confusion and it can feel like they're not getting results. Also, winging it can be doing too much in one session. Like I said, it's one of those things where I can use RBTI, I can use iridology, I can use muscle response testing, I've had the Zytoscan and something called a nutrienergetic scan. I have an AO frequency scan now. I have, different things and different tools that I can use, as well as just reading the intake form and asking the client questions. And so if it feels like I'm trying to do too much and the appointment lasts for an hour, fine, that's typical. 2 hours, 3 hours, wow, that can be taxing on you and on the client as well. So Rebecca says working on setting up systems and packages this year, typically more intuitive and flexible with their needs. And that's good. It's good to know where you are, and we do want to be intuitive and flexible. So I'm not saying don't be, and Rebecca wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying don't be flexible. What I'm saying is still, even in your flexibility, even though you may be more intuitive than, hey, I've got a set process, having that set process can be very comforting to your client, and it can help keep you on target and avoid those 2, 3, 4 hour consultations, because you're trying to fit so much into one visit. And if all you're charging, I'm going to just be blunt, if all you're charging is for 1 hour and you give away 3 hours worth of information and help and things like that, then you have given away. And sometimes giving, I'm not talking about being stingy, I'm talking about you've given more than they've gotten in return, and that does not always equate to them coming back. It can actually equate to, wow, you overwhelmed me, and now I can't handle, if you did that to me again, I can't handle it. So that's part of it. So Rebecca says, I hear you. It's balance both ways. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. It's balance. It's like, if you lean towards the systems and protocols, and this is the way it runs every single time, and you ignore the intuitive, flexible side, that can be harmful and damaging to your practice. But if it's only intuitive, if there's nothing concrete or nailed down, it can feel scattered to your client. So clients not returning because they don't feel anchored is a real issue. They may not feel like they're getting the guidance they need, or they may feel like they're getting so much the guidance is overwhelming. So if they don't feel grounded, if the process doesn't feel clear, and if they don't feel like we're making a connection with them, that's when it can be an issue. And that's when, we're missing the heart. And, for those of you who are in my Facebook group, Rebecca, whom I'm chatting with right now, posted a lovely testimony of listening and hearing the heart of the client and walking alongside the client, and it was beautiful. So go read that. So let's talk about intuition for a little bit and how to use it, because it works best when you do have a structure set up. Okay, so think of intuition as pattern recognition, and that's really, when it boils down and the science gets into it, what's happening in the brain, what's happening in the limbic system with intuition is our limbic system our amygdala is raising the red flags of something's up and we need to be aware. That's of intuition wise. And so a lot of times people who are intuitive, their sensors are on high alert, and they pay attention to that. That's beautiful, to be able to do that. But if that's what we're always doing, then it may feel like there's guesswork involved, and we want to slow things down. We want to build enough structure that you notice, patterns. You notice what's going on. You can come back and go, at this appointment, my client was saying that they had these issues. They did the palliative check where they went through to see, rating it. Hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, I felt this way, or whatever you use to determine and mark what someone is going through. And then when we come back the next time, we've got something to look at and go, well, we tried Bach flowers and herbal and homeopathy. How did that do? How did that change? What are those numbers now? It gives your intuition something to actually respond to, something that's concrete, and it prevents emotional or conversational momentum from running the session. Okay, because I've had that happen too, where I'm sitting there listening and let the person drive the consultation, because it's, and once again, we're back to that balancing act of how do you get it just right? Are we perfect? Are we ever gonna, do we ever get it just right? Maybe, maybe not, but most of the time we come really close. I would have to say, if you're trying, you're gonna come close. But it gives us something that, when that person comes in and they're all emotional and they're just pouring out their heart. Here's another thing is, because we're in this business and we understand, well, first, I think a lot of us, we just care anyway. Okay. It's not like we're sitting here going, we don't care about the person sitting in front of us. We do care about the person sitting in front of us. And that's why it matters. That's why a lot of times our emotions get engaged in what's going on, if that makes sense. And we want that person to pour out their heart and to be heard. But sometimes that runs the session and you never get to, actually helping the client. So with structure, the intuition can actually be purposeful. With structure, if you say, okay, I'm just going to use for my example, my practice as an example, because it's the practice that I know. And my practice, again, is iridology. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a shout out. February 9th through the 13th, I'm doing an online intensive iridology class. So if you have ever wanted to get training certification, get deep in iridology, we've got a whole week. You can take all the classes and get it right then. So 9th through 13th, figure out if that's something that you want to do, and join us. And you can direct message me, leave a comment or something like that for more information. But iridology is what I use. So iridology gives me a lot of information. Yes, Rebecca, I can't wait for it. You're joining me at that, and I can't wait either. So iridology gives me an assessment. By coming in, the person in front of me, the color of their eyes tells me which systems to support. Blue-eyed, I'm going to support the lymphatic system. Brown-eyed, the circulatory system. Certain signs in the digestive area tell me how to support their digestion. Structural issues tell me how quickly we can move or how slowly we need to make changes. So I'm getting a lot of information right there, right in front of me, on how to guide my clients. And normally what I'll do is, okay, these are the things that we see need support. These are the things that you come in asking for help with, because we never want to forget why the client came to see us. Because there are times when my iridology assessment will pick on something up that's more important, in my opinion, based on their iridology assessment, but they came to see me for a different reason. And I can't leave the reason they came to see me off the table. It's got to be in there. So, but what I recognize with iridology is that by supporting the person's primary nurture, what we call the primary nurture point. So for a blue-eyed lymphatic, we call them blue-eyed lymphatics because the lymphatic system is their primary nurture point. And we can do other things, but if we don't support their lymphatic system, we may just be paddling against the current and not getting anywhere at all, even though we're doing something for the reason they came to see us. So for me, that provides a lot of structure. It gives me the foundations and the guidelines and the way to get started on these, on helping. Okay. But let's say I'm going, oh, this person needs liver support and lymphatic support. And I'm going, well, I could do something like fenugreek or red clover or echinacea. There are different herbs that support. Now, don't think that I'm not also addressing the food, the water, the sleep, the exercise. I'm also addressing that, but sometimes we need the supplements to help us to repair and get further along faster. So I'll use muscle response testing to determine which herb would suit this person better. which one is going to help. So I'm going to use that in my assessment as well. Now, when they come back the next time, I'm going to ask them how they felt, what changes they experienced, if they had something better or worse, whatever. We're going to go into what's going on. We're going to see what needs to happen next. But somewhere along the line, if they didn't do it the first appointment, somewhere along the line, we're going to start touching on, I'm going to start noticing in the conversation they have, they'll start saying things like something at work that's bothering them, that's contributing to their digestive upset, or a family member that they're struggling with, and that's why they're having issues with their adrenals, or something somewhere. They'll start having the conversation with me about the why they may be having issues that's related to an emotional or even spiritual situation. And that's when I'll start bringing in Bach flower remedies and or chemotherapies, things like that. And that's one of those. Also being able to use the AO scanner, because that's one of those things where the scans that I did before, the Zyto and the nutrienergetics, the person had to be there in person to put their hand on the hand cradle. Well, this is brilliant, because if they're here with me, then I can use, them in person, but I just need their voice, because our voices carry a frequency. So I'm learning to use the AO to help me with my clients who are distant, and they can send me a voice recording, and I can use that to help determine what body systems. And it's amazing how many times the body systems that show up in the AO scan and what shows up in the irises and what I'm muscle response testing all come together, that, yeah, we're getting point on. So this brings me structure. Where the intuition and the flexibility come in is because there are times when I'm going, this person just needs to sit here and talk. They don't have anybody else to talk to. Let me let them, and then after, maybe not the entire time, but let me let them talk, and then let me build them a Bach flower blend to gift them. Let me determine which frequencies are going to help them best, or whatever it may be. And that allows me, instead of chasing after, where they have this problem over here and now they have that issue over there and now it's something else over here, it helps me to put together the pieces and actually prioritize what is the most important to deal with. And always, again, keeping in mind that the reason your client comes to see you, that's priority in their mind. Their body may be saying, well, you can look at this and go, let's say this is something that a lot of people deal with. Let's say it's weight loss. Well, for my brown hematogenic, I've got to support the circulatory system and the digestive system and the glands. For my blue-eyed lymphatics, even though we're talking about weight, we've got to support the lymphatic system, because if the body's not carrying out the trash properly, and you're like, well, the blood and the lymph, they work closely together. And I'm like, yes, they are, but there's still two different systems and there's different approaches. And it's like, if we don't have that structure, then just going, hey, let's put you on a weight loss program, and I don't have a weight loss program. I've had weight loss, I have had, and they work, but it's amazing how some people respond better and others don't. And I often wonder, and even in that program, you're trying to go, well, does this person need to support their nervous system, or does this person need to support their glandular system? What is it that needs to be supported? Do they need more liver support? So I'm not saying we didn't tailor it. I'm just going, it's amazing how sometimes, especially when you're not tailoring a system, some people respond and other people don't. So again, we're about 20 minutes or so in. And if you're watching, I'd love for you to say, hey, in the chat, let me know you're here. And if you've had that same experience with, hey, I've tried something, or I know people who've tried something and it doesn't seem to work, then let me know. And let me know if there's something that you use in your practice now that helps you get over that hurdle with your clients. Another thing that we want to think about is with having structure is not only are we not chasing symptoms, but you gain confidence in what you're doing. And so instead of jumping from one thing to another, does this work? Does that work? Just getting in, okay, this is what works for me. This is, I have the RBTI and I can pull out RBTI and use it. And there are times when I do, because I've sat with a client in front of me who has absolutely said, no, I don't have this issue. I don't have that issue. And I'm like, but your symptoms that you keep complaining about are telling me, a different story. If that makes sense. I'm like, your skin is doing, something showing up on your face. You're losing your hair. There's something wrong, and you think you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So, I pull out the RBTI, run the numbers, and sure enough, this one particular person, I was like, you need to go eat some red meat. Now, I don't know what y'all think about whether or not somebody should eat some red meat or not, but according to RBTI, she had more protein going out, no protein coming in. Her little nitrate did not even turn blue at all. If it turned even a hint of blue, I was shocked. I'm like, girl, you need to go get a steak right now. And it doesn't lie. Rebecca says the body doesn't lie in what it's communicating to us versus the words that we are speaking. And here's the truth. She was telling me the truth as far as she believed and understood it. She really did think that she was doing the right thing, and that by being vegan, and if you're vegan, please hear me. I'm not against anyone if it's bringing you health and life and sustaining you. But when I looked at, I'm losing hair, my glands are out, my face is this, and I'm going, I don't know if you're getting the right nutrients. And then I did the RBTI, and I'm looking down at that little dish, and I'm going, honey, you're not getting any protein in, as far as what your body is concerned. And her nephew told her later, you're so much nicer now that you're eating meat. And so it was affecting her emotions and her interactions with family too. So I'm just saying that because sometimes we do have our protocols, but I finally got to the point where the numbers and the, showing literally, because I don't tend to do the RBTI process in front of the client, because if you've ever done the Reams biological theory of ionization, that's what RBTI stands for. If you've ever done that, you're counting timing, seconds. You have to do the I'm doing a little thing with, like, I've got a little eyedropper in my hand, and you're doing a little solutions in a certain amount of time. So having a conversation with someone is really hard to do while you're running the test. And so, but I did have to show her what I was talking about, of like, you need to see this. I'm like, no, I'm not just handing you a piece of paper with numbers on it. I want to show you what's going on. And it did convince her. And she did start having better results. So I want to go back to the comment that Rebecca made, that, I have found that they need the reminder of each of us is created differently and not all from the same mold or cookie cutter. And that's so true. The people in front of us, we just, we have to see them as a person individually, and we have to look at them holistically. That's why it's called holistic health. It's because we're not just looking at symptoms, and we're not just looking at the body. We're taking in all the factors that we are triune beings, spirit, soul, and body, and we have to look at everything. So structure really makes a difference. It helps us to have the framework, and it's when you have a framework, It doesn't replace your intuition. It doesn't do away with your intuition, but it gives your intuition a place to land. And I want to give a shout out for our Brilliant Health Weekend Away coming up in May. So I've said something about our iridology class coming up February 9th through 13th, but May 1st through 3rd, if you are a holistic wellness practitioner or a health coach or a traditional naturopath, and you're going, I want confidence in my practice, we're covering confidence in practice that weekend in the beautiful mountains of LJ, Georgia. We get a cabin. Rebecca's been to one of our events. She loved it. I wish you were going to be able to make it in May at this one. I understand. But it's such a fabulous, it's a relaxing weekend because we're in nature. We look for places where we can go immerse ourselves in quiet, in nature. We can get outside, as well as having hands-on instruction. So we're going to cover muscle response testing, emotional iridology, emotional freedom technique, which is also called tapping, and other really good things are going to be included, and also helping the practitioner put all these pieces together. We'll have some case studies to review, and it's one of those things where, we'll say, well, according to iridology or tapping or muscle response testing, what would you recommend? Now, Judy is not going to be with us this time, which breaks my heart. So while we will talk about Bach flower remedies and conversation and using them, I have to let people know I'm not the Bach flower master that Judy Masters is, so it will not be called fluency. It will just be called Bach flower conversation. But sometimes refining those tools, coming and getting with other practitioners and practicing and getting your questions answered. Am I doing this right? What other questions should I ask my client? What else could I bring into the scenario? It really does help, which brings us to the point of triangulation. So if Judy's going to be hugely missed. So triangulation doesn't mean you're relying on one source of information. That's what we're saying by triangulation. We're looking at different sources of information. And, back to what Rebecca said about the person's body is telling us the truth. We use iridology. We use face, tongue, and fingernail analysis. We use the different scanners, and there are other health assessment tools out there as well that people can use. And that's one of those things where that's an assessment tool, because people come in and they are not lying to you. I'm not saying people don't lie ever, but I'm just going, they're coming in telling the truth, but they may not understand what their body is really saying. I mean, I've had, especially men are sometimes the worst at saying, oh, I have a still stomach. I can eat anything I want. I don't have any digestive issues. And I'm going, gas, bloating, constipation, snoring, all these different things. I'm going, yeah, your body is actually telling you that you are having problems, but because gas and bloating and constipation and diarrhea are just things to ignore or mask or something like that in our society. Not everybody does it, but we think of that as normal body function when in fact that should not happen. That should not be normal. It's not normal. So yeah, if Rebecca says connecting the dots in real life, that's what we do at these weekends away. So if you can come, I would love to have you. I'm pretty sure the links to my website and the events and everything are in the show notes. So all you have to do is click there. And if you need to ask questions, just DM me and we can chat that way. Or you can email me. My email address is on my website. So what triangulation means is you're not just relying on one source of information to help you see the patterns of what's going on. Because that's when I say I was looking at the person's irises, I was looking at the skin, and she's saying my hair is falling out, and this is happening, and that's happening. And if they're not able to lose weight on top of it or something like that, then the body's giving us a lot of information by things that we can physically observe about them. And so in iridology, what I notice is those constitutional patterns. Constitution means this is something that you're prone to, and you're going to have potential issues in those same areas again and again and again. So that's one of those things where with iridology, it's just a beautiful assessment tool that speaks about the person individually. A person's iris is more unique than our fingerprints, and our fingerprints are so unique. We use them for identification. Well, the irises can be used for identification as well. They tell us the tendencies that we inherit from our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, and they point to where our systems are stressed or overloaded or overwhelmed or things like that. So that's just one of those great things. Now, like I said, then I put it together. I don't just use one thing. I use muscle response testing to help me determine, because the irises might have something showing up in the thyroid, the pancreas, and the adrenal glands, and I need to use muscle response testing to go, well, which one needs the most support? Because for some people, supporting the thyroid would make sense. That's what we do. We put people on thyroid medication to lose weight or do whatever. And I'm like, but if what they might really need, and oftentimes is the case, it's the pancreas that needs the support. It's the digestion and the pancreas, because the pancreas is the big kid on the block. So these are the different things that by having, the AO, by having iridology, by having muscle response testing, or any other assessment tool that you have, because some people are using genetics and labs and things like that. That's perfect. If you do RBTI, if you use lab work, if you're getting genetic reports, that's amazing. You're getting more information to help you with that, and that's going to help you to triangulate and stay focused on what's the most important thing. Prioritize, see the patterns, what keeps coming up time and time and time again. So instead of chasing everything separately, we don't want to do that. I don't want to send my clients home with digestive enzymes and something for the pancreas and something for the thyroid and something for the adrenal glands and something to help detoxify the liver and something to help with the pain in their knees and something else to help with, because the lists just go on and on and on sometimes for some people. And we also, let me come back to that, finish that thought, Beth. We want to make sure and look at it and go, what's the primary area that if we took care of this area first, all of these other areas would start to come in order. So that's what triangulation helps with. Now, what my thought was that got me kind of distracted there just for a second was, please also be aware that we are dealing with people most of the time who are on some kind of prescription medication, and we, of course, are not taking them off the medication. So if that's the case, be sure that your client is letting their doctor know that they are working with someone holistically to help them with their food and their rest and their sleep, and they're recommending, supplements sometimes to help them. And the doctor needs to be aware of what's going on so that we can work together. Because sometimes when we introduce herbs, they either do the same thing that the prescription does, or they negate what the prescription does, or they detox it out of the body so the prescription doesn't work. And there's a way to work with people who are taking prescription medications. You can do that. So Rebecca says keep it simple for them to not be more overwhelmed when they leave. Yeah, yes, prioritize and simplify. That's actually a really good suggestion of being able to just prioritize and simplify what you're sharing with them. Now, things that we can also do is bring in clarifying questions. Be sure that you're asking your client questions about what their health history is, what they are actually doing. That's one of the things that with iridology, I know I'm talking a lot about iridology today, but it really is because that's my primary assessment tool. And so it's my primary way of running a consultation. But the irises give me the questions to ask the client first and foremost. Then the intake form gives me questions. When I look at it, I look to see if there's some kind of discrepancy. Are they saying something in one area that has a conflicting report somewhere in another area? Are they telling me with their words that they're doing something, but on paper they're showing me they're doing something else? So this will give us the questions to ask, like, when did this first start and what was happening around that time? Because sometimes, hormonal issues, digestive issues, many other issues, they have a trigger point. Many times they do. You can also ask things like, what disrupts your life the most? What feels like it's just too much for you in your daily life right now? Because a lot of times that'll help them open up and go, hey, I keep dealing with this issue over and over and over and over again, and come to find out that's what's holding the physical pain or the digestive upset or whatever it is. I mean, kids getting an upset stomach when they have to take a test is a real thing. It's a real thing. So it's like, it's not just I don't want to take a test. There's a physiological component that goes into it with some kids, not every kid. So a lot of times it's like, if you find out that they, even as an adult, they've grown up to be an adult, but when going to take a test, something they have to do is go take a test, and all of a sudden they start having digestive upset. And maybe it's something that they haven't had to take a lot of tests in a while, so they forgot about it, but all of a sudden they're dealing with it. So things like that. Do you notice certain seasons this happens more? Or, is there a time of day that this bothers you more? That kind of thing. So this helps us. And then you can prioritize those questions as well. You can ask prioritize. Sorry, my dog just got out of my lap and on her bed beside me. So, so what I'm saying here is ask questions that help you work with intention, help you so you're not starting over at zero every time. And so we want to make sure that you're asking, what are you hoping for today? What feels like you need the most support with today? That kind of thing. I hope that makes sense. If I was to just focus on one thing today, what would be the most important thing for me to work with you today? It doesn't mean that other areas won't also be supported and helped and taken care of, but we want to make sure that our clients are being heard so that when they come back, you're not starting over. That's what I mean by you're not working from zero. So when they come back to see you in 4 to 6 weeks, whatever that follow-up appointment is, you can still ask, what's the primary thing we want to work with? But you're also going, let me know what changed, what happened. Is that still your primary concern? That kind of thing. That's what we're looking at happening. So, okay, we're getting close. I try to keep these at an hour just so, they don't overwhelm. So I hope that what I'm sharing, Anne Marie, you made it. Okay, what did she say? Girl, I used to get so upset about testing that I have even misspelled my I misspelled my own name on the test. That I'm so sorry, Anne Marie. That made me laugh that she misspelled her own name. Okay, but see, that's real. Testing can really upset somebody, and I'm going to go back to that for a minute, because let's say that Anne Marie had to take a test for some reason, and it was over 2 weeks ago. But she's still having issues today when she comes to see me as a client. Well, she's taken the test is over. So it's in the past, but her body may still be holding on to digestive upset or tight shoulders or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, that's so funny. Okay, Rebecca says, empowering a client to trust they are being heard and make their own choices in their healing journey. And that's really what we're trying to do. We want to get our clients to the point where, they don't need us all the time. They don't have to call us for help. But at the same time, they know that if they do need our help, they can trust us and they'll want to come back, because they know that we're going to be confident. We're going to have our own protocol to follow. We're also going to be flexible and let our hearts lead us when intuition is needed, that, hey, maybe sticking with my protocol isn't necessary today. I need to be flexible and go where that leads us. So how does this build a better business? And see, that's why, one of the things we're focusing on is we can talk about, and we have talked about, block scheduling. I've said this at the beginning. We can talk about things like, do you have your systems in place? And are you taking a salary? And how much are you charging? And what are your packages? And are you charging enough? Are you charging too much? A lot of times we in the natural health field tend to not charge enough. But all of that goes into building a business. But without clients, we're not going to build anything. And without repeat clients, it's going to be really hard to build something. And when I say repeat clients, it's not, oh, I want them to stay sick. I actually want them to get better. But today we're dealing with, I was sharing in the coaching class yesterday, and I think I've shared this with y'all before. 20 years ago, when I was first starting as a consultant, I could do the iridology. I could do the muscle response testing. I could tell the client, here, change the way you're eating, drink more water, take these herbs. I mean, I'm putting it in a nice little package and putting a bow on it for the conversation today. But that was simple, and the people got results. But today, it's not that simple anymore. And while I wish it were still that easy back then, the truth of the matter is we've got more people coming to us today with either trauma or emotional issues. Well, trauma is emotional issues, but we've got emotional issues, traumas, we've got genetic issues, we've got injuries from foods and things that y'all know what I'm talking about, that are causing havoc in the body. And it's not as easy as it was 20 years ago. So a lot of times our clients do need to come back to see us more than once or twice, because they do need the guide to help them get on the path to better. So when I say that, I'm not saying, hey, let's keep our clients sick. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying just give them Band-Aids and empty promises. Y'all know me better than that. But what I'm saying is you can have the protocols. You can have the best intuition in the world. But if we don't actually meet our clients where they are in the session and handle what matters for them, then they're not going to want to come back. So our sessions, to build that better business, our sessions need to have the just like for our bodies, we need to have good foundations. Our businesses need to have good foundations. Any of you who have ever been part of building, my dad was a builder, and one of the first things they had to do was dig the footings. and we call them footings. Dig the footings. Dig the footings to the house. And you had to have a strong, solid foundation, and you had to dig the foundations and lay those foundations properly in order to build the house above it, right? And that's what we're talking about here. Is we're talking about building a better business, building a business that is, because people can know that they're going to get the help they need when they come to see us. So clients will feel supported. They're going to be more likely to come back. They're going to be more likely to go, hey, you helped me. Can I bring my husband? Can I bring my daughter? Can I bring my sister? Can I bring my friend? Can I bring my mom? That's what we're talking about. When we are listening and helping and they're seeing results, they're going to want to share that and what you did for them with others so that they can get the help too. And it's the return visits that build the continuity. New clients are great. I celebrate when I get new clients. That's always exciting. But new clients take more effort to get. It takes more effort to get a new client than it does to sustain a returning client. And it's what we are doing in our consultations that helps sustain that ongoing relationship. And I know that both Ree and Rebecca, who are on the chat with me, both of them understand that a lot of times our clients end up being very close friends or good friends or really good acquaintances. It's one of those things where, because, we do spend so much time, we really do build trust. We really do build relationship, and trust and that relationship is what builds a practice. So a better business grows out of better practices. So if that's something that you're going, I need help with that. I need to, again, I need hands-on training. I need experience. I need confidence or anything like that. Please, if you're not already part of my Facebook group, which these two ladies are, then follow the link to my Facebook group. It's for coaching and education for wellness practitioners. So then the name of the group is Holistic Wellness Practitioners Coaching and Education. It's a place to get support. It's a place to get answers. It's a place where you'll be in the know of, I can't make it to this iridology class. When's the next one coming? Or hey, I need to learn more about muscle response testing, or anything like that. Just be sure to reach out and join the group and get the support you need. And y'all who are already part of the group and share this with others, please, so that they can get the help and support they need as well. So thank y'all for joining me today. It's been a really good session. It's always fun, and I love it when Rebecca and Ree show up. I love it when others show up. So y'all keep on spreading the word, and